Hi, so welcome to the first video in the magic formula for sales success, for cold calling sales success. Now, I said to you I'm going to talk about the R. R is remember, and I told you there are going to be 5 things that you need to remember. So number 1 is remember why you don't like to take sales calls, right? Think about the bad sales calls that you've had and think about not being that sales caller yourself. Reflect on what made you not want to speak to a particular cold caller when they called you. Was it their attitude, their approach? Was it what they said? Was it how they sounded? Did they just sound like a robot, or did they sound interested? Did they listen to anything that you said? Did it sound too scripted? There's so many things that you can think about and reflect on. My advice to anybody is do take sales calls, because if you're a sales cold caller, then by taking sales cold calls, you will learn. You will learn what is good, you will learn what is not. So that brings me to the second point. Point 2, remember the sales calls that didn't go so well for you. Now, if they didn't go so well for you, then try to analyze why they didn't go so well. Now, to do that, you have to be quite brave, because it's not easy. You're going to have to record yourself. Try and record yourself, be it on video, be it just a voice call, but be brave enough to do it and listen to yourself and be objective. Okay, pretend you're analysing somebody else's call. That's probably the best way to do it, but it is important to try and do that as much as you can. Now, if you're in a workplace where they already record the calls, then just be proactive and ask to hear that call, especially if you know that particular prospect had a lot of potential. They were qualified, and really there could have been quite some value in you being able to win that client. So is therefore worth you actually taking the opportunity to listen to yourself and see where the call didn't go so well. And if you're really brave, you could just ask the client. You could just simply ask them and say, look, I totally appreciate where you're coming from. You don't want to take this any further, but can I just ask you for my personal feedback? Was there anything that I could have done differently that might have given us a different outcome today? All right. Always a good question to ask. You can ask it there and then, or you can call back later on. It also gives you another opportunity or another reason or excuse, if you like, to call them again. As I said, especially if it's a high potential prospect that you really, really do want to land. So number 3, remember when you received a good call and identify why was it a good call? What made you stay on the call? And what caught your interest? Now, quite often it could be that the call just happened to be made on a day that you were in a good mood. That tells you something. Also, it could be that they called, it was the right kind of thing that you were looking for, so the timing was spot on. Or it could just be the personality of the person on the other end, what they said and how they said it. Perhaps they just didn't sound like a robot. Perhaps they caught your interest because they sounded passionate about what they were talking about, and they didn't sound like every other sales caller. That's important. Which brings me to point 4, remember your own successful calls and think about or identify, if you like, why it was successful in the same way as you would if it wasn't. Then make sure that you always apply the magic that did work to each call in the same way. This is analysis, again, in the same way as I said in point 2. Just record yourself, think about it, think about what you did well, and keep applying that same principle to every call that you make. And the 5th thing to remember why you are calling to sell what you are selling in the first place. Now, there is a fine line between letting the product sell itself and you selling it. So to get that right, you not only have to be able to present the product well, but you also have to be able to present it with a passion. So get passionate. Sit down, start writing the things down about it that you know are great. Remind yourself every now and then. Talk to other people that love it. And it's always good to invigorate that passion in what you sell. If it's not your own product, it's not your own service, and you work in one of those call centers where you're selling something for somebody else, ask for a refresher about why is this product so good. It's worth anybody's time, any business's time, to put the time in to remind you and to reinvigorate your passion about what you're selling. I always say, if you're a business owner and you're selling something and you say, I don't think I can sell it as good as somebody else, then you're wrong. Because if you think it's good enough to take to market, then all you have to do is tap into why you're taking it into the market. So that's the R, the 5R in our magic formula for successful cold calling. And my next video will be about the P, 3P. I'll see you then.